Wait, did you notice it too? During BTS's global tour, there were several moments when RM seemed unusually attentive to Jimin. A quick glance in his direction, a hand subtly guiding him through the crowd, a brief pause as if he was making sure Jimin was okay before focusing on anything else. At first, many fans thought these were just random interactions between two members who have known each other for over a decade. But as more clips surfaced and more people started piecing the moments together, one question began spreading across the fandom. Why does Namjoon seem so protective of Jimin lately? Was there a specific reason behind it? Or was it simply another example of the deep bond that BTS has always shared? And perhaps even more importantly, why did these small gestures touch so many people around the world? Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Signal. Today, we're diving into one of the most talked about topics among ARMY during BTS's global tour. It's not about a performance, a new song, or even a surprise announcement. Instead, it's about the little moments that happened between RM and Jimin. Moments that many fans almost missed at first but later couldn't stop talking about. The interesting thing is that none of these moments were dramatic. There wasn't a big speech. There wasn't a major incident on stage. In fact, that's exactly why people found them so meaningful. Sometimes the smallest actions reveal the deepest relationships. Throughout BTS's career, ARMY has witnessed countless examples of the members taking care of one another. They've spent years together as trainees, artists, roommates, and brothers in everything except blood. They experienced overwhelming success together, faced criticism together, and even navigated periods of uncertainty side by side. Over time, they developed an understanding of one another that often doesn't require words. And when it comes to RM and Jimin, their relationship has always had a unique dynamic. Although RM is often known as the group's thoughtful leader and Jimin is frequently described as warm, sensitive, and deeply caring, fans have noticed that Namjoon tends to pay close attention to Jimin's emotional state. It's something that has appeared in different eras of BTS's journey. Years ago, the members themselves talked about how Jimin often pushes himself extremely hard. Whether it's practicing choreography until late at night, perfecting vocal performances, or making sure every stage feels meaningful, Jimin has always been someone who gives everything he has. He is known for holding himself to incredibly high standards. Because of this personality, there have been moments when other members naturally stepped in to support him. At first, it seemed like the recent global tour would simply be another exciting chapter for BTS. The stadiums were filled with fans. The energy was incredible. The performances were receiving praise from audiences around the world. On the surface, everything looked perfect. But then something unexpected happened. Fans began sharing short clips online. In one video, RM appeared to slow down slightly, making sure Jimin was walking comfortably beside him before continuing forward. In another, he glanced toward Jimin several times during a chaotic moment surrounded by cameras and staff members. There were also moments on stage where RM's attention briefly shifted toward Jimin before returning to the audience. Individually, these moments might not seem significant. However, when fans watched them together, a different picture started to emerge. Some ARMY members said these interactions reminded them of an older brother quietly looking after someone he deeply cares about. Others believed the clips reflected the natural understanding that can only develop after spending more than a decade together. And then another conversation started. Most fans didn't notice this detail at first, but global tours can be physically and emotionally exhausting, even for artists with years of experience. The travel schedule is intense. There are rehearsals, sound checks, interviews, costume changes, and performances that demand incredible energy. Add the emotional responsibility of standing before tens of thousands of fans every night, and it's easy to understand why artists need to rely heavily on one another. For BTS, this reality may feel even more intense. Their return as a complete group generated enormous excitement across the world. Expectations were naturally high. Every appearance became major news. Every performance was carefully analyzed. Every interaction among the members became a topic of discussion. Under these circumstances, the members often become each other's source of comfort. And this is where everything became even more interesting. Some fans began revisiting older interviews and behind-the-scenes moments involving RM and Jimin. They remembered times when Namjoon openly praised Jimin's dedication. They recalled occasions when RM expressed admiration for Jimin's ability to care for people around him. They also remembered moments when Jimin himself described RM as someone he trusts and respects deeply. Suddenly, those recent clips during the tour started to carry more emotional weight. Because maybe these weren't isolated moments at all. Maybe they were simply the latest examples of a relationship that has been quietly developing for years. One of the reasons ARMY found these interactions so touching is because they didn't appear staged or intentional. They happened naturally. And that's often when genuine care becomes most visible. Think about it for a moment. When people truly care about someone, they don't always announce it. They don't always make grand gestures. Sometimes they simply pay attention. They notice small things. They instinctively check whether someone is comfortable, tired, or overwhelmed. This kind of attentiveness often happens without conscious effort. And many fans felt that was exactly what they were seeing from RM. Of course, it's important to say that neither RM nor Jimin has publicly explained these moments in a way that confirms fan interpretations. Much of the discussion remains observation and personal opinion within the fandom. However, that's also part of what makes these moments special. They're open to interpretation. Some fans see brotherly affection. Others see the result of years of friendship. Some simply view it as leadership in action. But regardless of how people interpret the clips, one thing became clear. They reminded everyone of something that has always been at the heart of BTS. And perhaps that's why these brief interactions spread so quickly online. In an industry often focused on performances, records, and achievements, seeing moments of quiet support can feel incredibly meaningful. But here's where the story takes another interesting turn. As more videos continued appearing, some fans began noticing another pattern. Whenever Jimin seemed especially focused, deeply immersed in a performance, or caught up in everything happening around him, RM's attention occasionally shifted toward him again. Not in an obvious way. Not in a way that interrupted anything. Just enough for people to notice. And that detail started another wave of conversations among ARMY. Because longtime fans know that Jimin has repeatedly spoken about his tendency to overthink things. He cares deeply about his performances and often reflects on whether he did enough. He has shared stories in the past about practicing extensively because he wanted to meet both his own expectations and the expectations of fans. This dedication is one of the reasons people admire him so much. At the same time, it also means that people around him may naturally become aware of how much pressure he sometimes places on himself. Could this be part of the reason RM seemed particularly attentive during the tour? Nobody outside BTS can answer that question with certainty. But many fans believe there may be something beautiful in the possibility itself. The possibility that after all these years, the members understand one another so well that they can recognize emotions and needs that other people might never notice. What happened next surprised even more fans. As discussions continued online, people began sharing their own stories. Some said the interactions reminded them of friendships in their own lives. Others said the clips brought comfort because they showed that even global superstars rely on support from the people around them. Interestingly, many fans weren't talking about celebrity culture at all anymore. They were talking about relationships, trust, understanding, the quiet ways people protect those they care about. And suddenly, a few seconds of interaction between RM and Jimin had become something much larger than a viral clip. It became a reminder of human connection. Yet there was still one detail that many people hadn't considered. A detail that may explain why these moments felt especially emotional during this particular tour, and why so many fans continue discussing them even now. That overlooked detail is actually connected to time. Not stage time. Not performance time. Lifetime. Think about it for a second. RM and Jimin are no longer the young trainees who met years ago and were simply trying to survive another day of practice. They are artists who have spent more than a decade growing together. They have witnessed each other's successes, insecurities, fears, and dreams in ways that almost nobody else can understand. And when people spend that much time together, relationships naturally evolve. What begins as friendship often turns into something deeper, a sense of responsibility toward one another. Many longtime ARMY members pointed out that there have always been subtle signs of this between RM and Jimin. Sometimes it was RM listening carefully when Jimin spoke. Sometimes it was Jimin looking toward Namjoon during interviews as if seeking reassurance. Other times, it was simply the comfortable silence they shared. Their relationship was never the loudest dynamic in BTS. Perhaps that's why these recent moments felt so refreshing. They weren't moments designed to attract attention. In fact, If fans hadn't replayed the videos multiple times, many people probably would have missed them entirely. But that's exactly what made them powerful. Because genuine care often exists in the background. As the global tour continued, ARMY started revisiting older memories from BTS's journey. They remembered documentaries where the members openly discussed their struggles. They remembered periods when everyone was physically exhausted and emotionally drained. They remembered how each member relied heavily on the others during difficult moments. And one thought kept appearing in fan discussions. BTS survived everything because they never had to carry their burdens alone. The more fans talked about it, the more those clips of RM and Jimin seemed to symbolize something much bigger. They weren't simply about one member checking on another. They represented the support system that BTS has built over many years. And perhaps this understanding became even more emotional because of everything the group has experienced recently. Their reunion as a complete team generated enormous excitement around the world. Expectations were incredibly high. Every city welcomed them with thunderous cheers. Every concert became headline news. Every appearance turned into trending topics across social media platforms. For many artists, that level of attention would be overwhelming. Even for BTS, who have been global superstars for years, returning as a complete group carries enormous significance. Fans waited patiently. The members waited patiently. Everyone wanted this moment to be special. Now imagine carrying those expectations while performing in front of tens of thousands of people every night. The pressure must be immense. And maybe that's precisely why small gestures between the members became so meaningful. Because they remind everyone that behind the dazzling lights and sold-out stadiums are 7 people who still depend on each other. At first glance, RM's attentiveness toward Jimin might appear simple. But then another question emerged among fans. Why Jimin specifically? Why were so many people focusing on these interactions? The answer may actually lie in Jimin's personality. Throughout his career, Jimin has built a reputation for being incredibly passionate and deeply emotional. He pours himself completely into performances. He notices details that others might ignore. He constantly seeks improvement, even when fans already believe he has done more than enough. Many of his fellow members have spoken about his dedication over the years. They've described him as someone who works relentlessly, someone who cares deeply, someone who gives his entire heart to what he does. And while these qualities are admirable, they can also be exhausting. People who care intensely often carry invisible pressure. Longtime fans know this. The members know this too. That's why some ARMY members believe RM's behavior during the tour wasn't necessarily about protecting someone who was struggling. Instead, it may have been something much simpler and perhaps even more beautiful. Maybe it was about making sure someone he deeply respects doesn't have to carry everything by himself. Most fans didn't notice another fascinating detail. Whenever RM speaks about the members, he often highlights qualities that go beyond talent. He talks about character, about effort, about sincerity. And sincerity is a word that perfectly describes how many people see Jimin. Jimin has repeatedly shown gratitude toward fans, concern for his members, and genuine appreciation for the people around him. Even during busy schedules, he often takes time to communicate warmly with ARMY. Perhaps this is one reason people found those clips so emotional. Seeing someone care for Jimin felt meaningful because fans themselves care deeply about him. In a way, many viewers projected their own feelings onto those moments. When RM checked on Jimin, some fans felt as though someone was looking after a person they themselves wanted to protect. And that's when these interactions became even more personal. Social media discussions shifted once again. People weren't only analyzing body language anymore. They were expressing gratitude. Many fans wrote comments saying things like, "Thank you for taking care of Jimin," or "Their friendship is so precious." Others said the clips reminded them why they fell in love with BTS in the first place. Not because of records, not because of achievements, but because of their humanity. Because despite becoming global icons, the members still treat one another with kindness and consideration. And honestly, that may be one of BTS's greatest strengths. Their chemistry doesn't feel manufactured. It feels lived in. It feels earned. You can sense the years of shared experiences behind even the smallest interaction. However, that's still not the whole story. Because another layer of this discussion began appearing among fans. Some people pointed out that RM himself has changed significantly over the years. The young leader who once carried enormous pressure on his shoulders has grown into someone who seems increasingly comfortable expressing affection and care toward the people around him. He's spoken openly about personal growth, about understanding himself better, about appreciating relationships more deeply. And perhaps maturity changes the way people show love. As we grow older, we often become more aware of the importance of checking on our friends, supporting our loved ones, and paying attention to small details. Maybe that's also part of what fans were witnessing. Not only Jimin being cared for, but RM becoming someone who naturally shows care more openly than before. And if that's true, then the story becomes even more meaningful. Because it isn't just about one person protecting another. It's about two people who have grown together. Two individuals who entered the same company as teenagers and young adults, uncertain about the future, and eventually became part of one of the biggest groups in music history. They've spent years learning from each other, supporting each other, arguing with each other, celebrating together, crying together, and surviving challenges together. Relationships built through experiences like those become incredibly deep. Sometimes so deep that concern becomes instinct. You don't have to think about it. You simply do it. You look back to make sure your friend is there. You notice when they're tired. You pay attention without even realizing it. And suddenly, those viral clips during the global tour start looking different again. Maybe they weren't extraordinary moments. Maybe they were ordinary moments. Moments so natural for RM and Jimin that neither of them even realized fans would be discussing them around the world. But perhaps that's exactly why people couldn't stop talking about them. Because in a world filled with carefully planned content and highly produced performances, authenticity stands out immediately. And according to many fans, these interactions felt completely authentic. Yet there was one final observation that made the entire conversation even more emotional. A small detail hidden in plain sight. A detail that may reveal why RM's protectiveness toward Jimin resonated so deeply with ARMY, and why these seemingly simple interactions became one of the most heartwarming stories of the entire global tour. That small detail was this. Many fans noticed that whenever RM briefly looked toward Jimin or stayed close to him during certain moments, Jimin often seemed completely unaware of it. And somehow, that made everything even more touching. Because care can look very different depending on who's receiving it. Sometimes, people don't even realize they're being looked after. They don't notice the person quietly making sure they're comfortable, paying attention to their surroundings, or simply staying nearby in case they're needed. When ARMY began discussing this perspective, the entire conversation shifted again. The clips were no longer being viewed as evidence of something dramatic happening behind the scenes. Instead, many fans started seeing them as little glimpses into the kind of relationship that develops after spending years together. A relationship where support becomes second nature. A relationship where concern doesn't require explanation. A relationship where someone instinctively looks after another person simply because they've shared too much of life together not to. And honestly, that's probably one of the reasons BTS continues to resonate with millions of people around the world. The members don't only perform together. They live through experiences together. They've celebrated achievements that most artists only dream about. They've stood on some of the biggest stages in the world. They've carried immense expectations and experienced unimaginable pressure. Yet through all of it, one thing has remained surprisingly consistent. They keep showing up for one another. What happened next was particularly heartwarming. As these discussions spread online, fans from different countries started sharing their favorite examples of BTS members quietly caring for one another over the years. Suddenly, timelines weren't only filled with recent tour clips anymore. They became collections of memories. There were old interview moments, backstage stories, candid interactions, and small gestures that many people had forgotten. And the more these memories resurfaced, the more one realization became clear. This kind of attentiveness isn't something new within BTS. It's part of their culture as a team. Perhaps that's why so many people found the RM and Jimin moments so comforting. In many ways, they represented something familiar. They reminded fans that despite all the changes in BTS's career, despite new stages, new cities, and new chapters, the core of their relationship still feels remarkably the same. They still look after one another. They still pay attention. They still move through challenges together. And maybe that's what people missed the most during periods when the members were pursuing individual activities and spending more time apart. Seeing these small interactions again felt almost nostalgic. For some fans, it felt like coming home. Another interesting thing happened during these conversations. Many ARMY members began talking less about who was protecting whom and more about the mutual trust that exists among all 7 members. Because trust isn't built overnight. Trust is built through thousands of conversations, thousands of shared experiences, thousands of moments when someone proves, again and again, that they will be there when needed. It's impossible for fans to know every detail of the members' friendships. There are countless memories and experiences that only BTS themselves understand. But every now and then, a tiny moment slips through. A glance, a smile, a small gesture. And suddenly, fans are reminded that there is an entire history behind these interactions. A history that cannot be fully captured in a short video clip. Perhaps that's why these moments continue to feel so powerful. They hint at stories that exist beyond what cameras can see. And maybe that's also why people connected with them on such an emotional level. Because everyone understands what it means to have someone who quietly watches over you. A friend, a sibling, a family member. Someone whose care doesn't always come in the form of words. Sometimes it comes in the form of attention. And attention can be incredibly meaningful. As the global tour moves forward, it's likely that fans will continue noticing these little interactions among the members. Some moments will become viral. Others may pass by almost unnoticed. But perhaps that's not really the point. The real beauty lies in knowing that these moments happen naturally. They aren't performances. They aren't fan service. They're simply pieces of real human connection appearing in the middle of extraordinary circumstances. And honestly, there is something incredibly comforting about that. Because behind the sold-out stadiums and dazzling stage lights, BTS still feels like 7 people who genuinely know one another's habits, personalities, strengths, and vulnerabilities. 7 people who have grown up together. 7 people who continue to learn from each other. 7 people who, even after all these years, still seem to care about the little things. Maybe that's why RM's seemingly protective behavior toward Jimin resonated so deeply with fans around the world. It wasn't because people believed something serious had happened. It wasn't because they wanted to create unnecessary speculation. It was because the interactions reminded everyone of something simple and beautiful. Relationships matter. Being present matters. Paying attention matters. And sometimes the quietest gestures say the most. As fans, we often focus on the biggest moments in an artist's career. The award wins, the record-breaking achievements, the spectacular performances. But occasionally, it's the smaller moments that stay with us the longest. A member looking back to make sure someone is there. A brief glance in the middle of a busy schedule. A subtle gesture that lasts only a few seconds. Those moments can tell stories too. Stories about friendship. Stories about trust. Stories about people who have spent years becoming each other's support system. And perhaps that's the reason this topic touched so many hearts. Because whether you're an ARMY in Seoul, Jakarta, London, New York, Sao Paulo, or anywhere else in the world, it's impossible not to appreciate seeing genuine care between people who have shared such an incredible journey together. As the tour continues, there will undoubtedly be more unforgettable performances, more exciting surprises, and more moments that capture fans' attention. But for many people, these brief interactions between RM and Jimin will remain special because they reminded us that even global superstars are still human beings who rely on one another. And maybe that's one of the most beautiful things about BTS. No matter how large their world becomes, they still seem to hold on to the relationships that helped them reach this point. For ARMY, witnessing these moments feels less like observing celebrities and more like watching old friends continue walking together through another chapter of their lives. And honestly, that's a wonderful thing to see. So what do you think? Did you also notice these moments between RM and Jimin during the global tour? Do you think it reflects their years of friendship and understanding? Or was there another detail that stood out to you? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like because it really helps the channel. Subscribe to Pop Signal and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the latest updates, stories, and discussions about K-pop, BTS, Jimin, and the amazing world of ARMY. And of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Which BTS member interaction has touched you the most over the years? And why do you think these small moments continue to resonate so strongly with fans? Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. As always, take care of yourselves, keep supporting the artists you love with kindness and respect. And we'll see you again very soon with another story from the world of K-pop here on Pop Signal.